now officially a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
Broken, thankless, push you down, open.
And welcome to On a Forklift. As always, I would like to give a huge shout out to our buddy Mark over there in Reason 9 for the Gloom Phase song in the opening. Cannot thank him enough. And it just kind of fits with the music. Now, so I'm back again, and I have somebody new next to me on this side. This is Chris Peapod Daher, and we're just going to refer to him as Chris or Peapod for the rest of the show because I will inevitably screw up the last name. However, more importantly, let's get that banner up there so you guys know who we are talking to. You guys know who I am. That's nothing. I've been here the whole time, every single time. But more importantly, Chris, thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, no problem. I go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, this
Go
fine.
ahead.
I was just going to say thank you. No, you're fine. You gave me a live microphone, so I'm going to just inevitably constantly talk. But no, I'm excited to be here. You've interviewed our promoter for RPW, Chris Kohlenberg, and that's why I'm calling myself Peapod. We have way too many Chris's behind the scenes. And then you had twice my commentary partner in John Bullard, which I still need to sit down and watch your promoter showcase, Promoter 101 that you just did recently. So I'm very excited to dive into that soon. I wanted to catch it before I got on, but I didn't get to. So, but yeah, I'm very excited.
Okay. You can catch it on the channel at any time. I had a blast doing it. I felt like a student going to a college class, which ironically, you and I went to the same trade school. And I didn't pay attention a heck of a lot. I'm a specs grad as well.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So yeah, 15 years later, and I'm finally using this stuff. I was RTV 709 back when it was still media or broadcast arts before it was media arts.
Right.
One of an old breed. Now they're at LTU or wherever they're at. Regardless of that, so we've touched on basic grounds. We both love wrestling. Obviously, you wouldn't be here if you didn't. We've both been through radio. Also, you live in the Toledo area. I was a big fan of IoT because I grew up kind of close to the border. So like, listen to a lot of that.
So I was not. I never worked for IoT because that was owned by a company named Clear Channel, which turned into iHeartMedia, which is the biggest corporate radio company in the country. But I worked for 11 years for Cumulus Media, which is the second largest corporate radio station. So basically, I did radio for about 11 years. And then in 2021, COVID was kind of a gift in disguise because I kind of reached a point in my radio career that I wasn't going to be doing anything more. They took away the radio station I was on. I did morning radio for an alt rock station. I played a whole lot of butt rock. Butt rock has a very, very, very soft spot in my heart. And that's how I ran into Chris, because I actually brought him onto my radio show to promote the first ever RPW show that was going to be happening in the spring of 2020. And well, we all know that song and dance. And after COVID, after I left, I decided, I was brought on by my former commentary partner. His name was Travis, a.k.a. Stoney Schiavone. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. Well, at least the company. He's still alive, but
okay. Like I was about to be like, hold on a second.
No, he's no longer with us in the company, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
And I miss him terribly, but life happens sometimes. And I was brought on, and I've been here this April will be a little, I think, right around the time that MIASMA is airing, it will be 3 years of me being part of RPW. And it's been a hell of a time so far doing stuff in the independent scene. I never thought I would ever do this, and it's just been so rad. And this Jersey show is going to be absolutely incredible. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that I think we have the card of the not only the week at H2O, but one could say the best card of the whole weekend.
It's hard to argue that, especially if you're a fan of a more violent style of wrestling as deathmatch wrestling is. And it's not just deathmatch wrestling, because I don't want to say that it's all just light tubes and glass panes and stuff. There are some phenomenal wrestlers on this card, just in their own right, even a clean style, if you will. I mean, I will fully admit I am not absolutely the biggest fan of deathmatch wrestling. However, when it is done right, it is a symphony of destruction. Kind of tends to be overused a little bit, but that's about the best way to describe it. I can't argue. Like, I love watching old FMW matches. Like, that's the level kind of where I was at. And that's really the intro that I had to that and whatever hardcore matches, ECW stuff you would get. So until I got into actually going to the scenes and stuff like that, I don't think I fully had an appreciation for what they do. So while it might not always be my cup of tea, goddamn, do I appreciate it and what these men and women put their bodies through.
I think deathmatch, there's a kind of an art to it, and if done well, and what we try to do is to really, like, you know, my job as a commentator is to make you care a little bit more about these people hitting each other with questionable objects. If I don't give you the great background in why these people are doing it, the history of it, and what we do in RPW is really, you know, build upon these stories and, you know, the storytelling, everything. It's more than just people, you know, hack and slash. There's substance behind it. And I think live deathmatch is just the whole other feeling than you see on television. You know, if you're a fan of horror films and things like that nature, or like, you know, your action adventure, or your John Wicks, for example, you know, deathmatch is right in that same category. It can be. Can it be gruesome? Absolutely. Can it be a little obnoxious at times? Absolutely. But that's kind of the fun of what we do. It's really enjoyable, and the massive respect of, like you said, men and women who do this and choose to do this. I've been very fortunate that there has never been a person that we've had on our shows that I was like, man, I never hope we never work with that person again. It's never happened. Everybody's been uptight, excuse me, not uptight, upright and respectful. Yes. And just it's just a lot of great people, not only behind the scenes, but in all the wrestlers and on our crew and everything. We're legitimately a family. We look out for each other. We want to boost each other up, because there have been many times where we shouldn't be at the spot we are in, and many people after every show are coming around us and saying, hey, Ruthless Pro's doing cool things. RPW, gotta go check them out. Hey, don't miss an RPW show. They're gonna do some cool stuff. We work hard. We do our damnedest. People get paid. People go home with, you know, a couple of shirts, couple of good times, great memories. It's truly an awesome thing to do.
We talk about, so it's a common theme that's brought up, is you speak about kind of the aggression, the ruthlessness that these workers have in the ring, but also behind the scenes of how different somebody is. And we were speaking pre-show about him, Roar. Roar is one of those people that absolutely terrifying out in the ring. If you meet them outside of the ring, even just at a merch table, one of the absolute finest human beings. Satu Jin is the same way. Mm-hmm. Just wonderful folks, and they'll take the time. So I think they'll take the time to talk to anybody, kids, adults, anybody. And it's awesome. And to me, that's one of the biggest draws of independent wrestling. And I think the lovely thing about the deathmatch scene is there's not too many people that think that they're bigger than what the scene is.
And if they think they are, they'll definitely get their comeuppance about it. So,
big time. I mean, so like I said, I wasn't the biggest into it. The first show that we ever were able to do and produce live, the main event of it was Schlack and Duke. So I got to be ringside up close with a camera, just getting blasted. I was picking glass out of my beard for a week. It was the first time I ever got to do that. It was one of the coolest things. And like, even having been in a wrestling ring, I'm like, this is wild. I don't think I would ever want to do this, but I do enjoy being up close to the carnage. And this show where you're talking about in New Jersey, you're going to be at the H2O Center. Mm-hmm. This place has seen amazing things. A 700 light tube match, with Neil Diamond Cutter and Matt Tremont. This is going to be this has an opportunity to be bigger than that. Sure, there's not a match that says that to it, but the card as a whole is just top to bottom. There is no miss on here. There's nothing there. And you've got talent from all over the world.
We have international talent from New Zealand, from UK, from Australia, from Japan, all coming there. And obviously also some of the biggest wrestlers on not only in the region, but also on the national stage as well. We have people that are blowing up, young hot stars like, we spoke about Remington Roar. We speak about Judge Joe Dredd. We talk about some of those. We have great legends who have been around the block and then some, and they're still finding ways to reinvent and put themselves out there. We talk about Randy West. We talk about Schwartzy. We talk about Low Life Louie. It's an incredible. It's been an incredible time and seeing this roster build. Even when I first started right off of and I just put it on my personal Facebook, one of the first shows I saw in person, and it was right before the decision was to bring me in on commentary, because doing 11 years in broadcasting, I know how to decently talk into a microphone somewhat, but, introing Nickelback songs and introing a wrestling show are two different things and two different skills.
I'm sorry. All I can think is because you were talking about the butt rock. I can think about, and that was our interview with Chris Kohlenberg. And now the animal I have become, 3 Days Grace. And you're just like, no!
That's literally what it is. So fun fact, he hates butt rock.
Posted!
And he hates it. And that's fine. We're all like, our whole crew is just, we are really a weird Cabbage Patch, crew of people of all different walks of life, but we all have strengths and weaknesses and we all fit all together very well. And even when I first met Chris and interviewed him for his first show that was going to be happening at Handmade Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, and it wasn't originally going to be a deathmatch company. It evolved into a deathmatch company. But we still like to give everybody, fun, non-death matches, death matches, gruesome. We have all different types of styles. It's a buffet of wrestling, and MIASMA is a perfect example of what is going to go on, and that buffet you're going to see, because we have great wrestlers all across the board. And like you said, like I can look at this card and I can go, that's going to be match of the night. That's going to be match of the night. That's going to be match of the night. It's just going to be all rise. And it's just, every match is just going to outdo each one for whatever reason or however it's going to go down. It's truly going to be an amazing sight on Sunday, April 7th at the H2O Center.
Well, let's get into the card then. We've done enough talking about it. And if you haven't seen any of the announcements for it, good news is we're going to go through them all right here. And if you want more information, please check out the Ruthless Pro Wrestling Facebook page. They have there's vignettes, there's promos, everything is coming out about this. It's a huge show. It's going to be on IWTV. You guys can check it out there. I mean, and if you're in the New Jersey area, I think the first 4 rows are completely sold out. Is the show sold out yet?
Front row is sold out.
Okay.
There's still plenty of room, but the H2O Center is a smaller venue.
Yes.
So
it's only about 300 people ish.
Something like that. And I don't know the official numbers. I'm not privy to that. But what I've heard and what I've seen, the hype around it, this will sell out, if not close to sell out. So if you're on the fence, don't expect, don't take the risk of getting tickets at the door. Buy ahead of time. Ruthlesspro.com has all the info.
Yes, and coming from somebody who's been at events like this, smaller venues are way cooler for deathmatch wrestling. It's one of those things where, like, we'll say mainstream wrestling, even larger market wrestling. So if an AEW, WWE, GCW, MLW for a lesser extent, not to take anything away from it, so great content. It's okay to sit a little bit back from the ring because you kind of can see everything. You want to be that. There's certain nuances that take place in deathmatch wrestling that you want to be up close for. You want to see what's going to go on. I mean, I can point out to things like locally, we have Chuck Stein. He uses the hypodermic needles. They go through. It's not the same effect when you're, 100 feet away as you are when you're 20 feet away, and you can actually see it go through the cheek. It's wild. And Otis Koger, Atticus Koger, all of them. Fantastic.
All the Kogers.
Yeah. Let's just bust right into this. So we have the Duke and Yusaku Ito. I'm not familiar with Ito. I apologize, but I am very familiar with the Duke and his line of business.
So Yusaku Ito is a mainstay in places like Freedoms, in places like not GCW, excuse me, Big Japan Pro Wrestling. He is a multiple time tag team champion in the Japanese scene. Pro Wrestling Team Dara is another company that he's frequent of. In 23 he had like notable matches against people like Takeda, Los Macizos, and the obviously the Bakagaijin faction. He recently took on Pondo and Butcher, the Necro Butcher out there. So he's been doing it around since 2012. And we're very excited to have that opportunity of him. He's making a U.S. excursion, which I'm always for. I love the idea of Japanese wrestlers doing U.S. excursions and vice versa. I love to see, those Gaijin wrestlers come from the States and do runs in Big Japan. Another batch of wrestlers are heading out there right after Mania. And it's not necessarily just deathmatch wrestlers. There's a couple of other wrestlers that are going to be doing some stuff in Big Japan, which is great because Big Japan, and as John Bullard, I'm sure, talked about, Big Japan is not just about death matches, but it's about like that hard hitting style, a lot of the high flyers, things like that. It's a very mixed bag. Much like we try to do here in RPW. But John Wayne Murdoch, you talk about one of the top American deathmatch wrestlers in the country. You started in 2007. You talk about John Wayne Murdoch. We last saw him in RPW back in June during that four-way main event with Abdullah Kobayashi and Atticus Koger and Tommy Vendetta. Huge bouts in RPW with like Satu Jin and Eric Ryan and Masada and Big F and Joe and Dale Patrick. You name a who's who of deathmatch wrestlers of yesteryear and today, and John Wayne Murdoch has probably faced them and or beat them. So this is going to be quite the scene. And this is a first-time matchup between these two gentlemen as well. So that's also very exciting as well.
I think this is real important for the Duke as well, because I don't try to put a lot of stock in online message boards, but there has been a little bit of a does he still have it? Everybody's wondering. He's been wrestling what people are deeming below his level for a while, which I think is horseshit, to be honest. He's like Casey Cattell. Him and Casey Cattell had an absolutely drag out knockdown match. It was fantastic. I don't see where people are getting that from, but you know what? This is a way that if he wants to silence some people, this is the match.
I mean, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them. They all stink. Yep. So, the idea of saying John Wayne Murdoch doesn't have it is preposterous to me. I think John Wayne Murdoch is probably one of the top deathmatch wrestlers of our time.
I would say the last 10 years, you can't argue it.
Absolutely. In the past decade, absolutely. I think John Wayne Murdoch is the guy. That name brings eyes, brings, ticket sales, brings action. He's incredible. I think he's at the point in his career that he doesn't necessarily have to, main event a show. He doesn't need to take the highest of the high people. I think you will get a damn good match if your opponent is John Wayne Murdoch. I think it's that idea of like you can face him with a broom and you'll still get a 5-star match out of both competitors. So I think John Wayne Murdoch, I don't think he has anything to prove, but if he wants to shut people up and show them what he's about, absolutely.
This is a fantastic one for it. Now we're going to move into a tag team match, which I don't know exactly how RPW tag teams match. If we're going just kind of tornado tagging here, and it's two. I know matches kind of tend to devolve into those things, but I am very, very familiar with two of these gentlemen, and I'm familiar on a viewing level with the others. We're going to move into wondering if 440 is going to accept the challenge from Midwest Scum, made up of grimy Zach Thomas and the Dread King Logan.
Midwest Scum is our inaugural tag team champions. They have not been beaten since November of 2021, when they were crowned tag team champions in our Boiling Point 2 tag team tournament. They took on a bunch of other teams and won the tag champions. Now, Dread King Logan has been absent last few months. Kind of some things were lingering. And Zach Thomas has been once again kind of gone solo. If you're familiar with the RPW product, Zach Thomas was one of the mainstays, one of the day oneers of RPW. So having these two together have been incredible, and they've had some incredible matches so far. And yes, a lot sometimes, depending on the opponents and everything, RPW tag team matches might devolve into a tornado tag, but we try to stick with your regular, 1 in, 1 out tag team rules. Having said that, Zach Thomas kind of has a little bit of a connection with the 440, since 440
the Cleveland area.
Yeah. Yes, the Cleveland area. He is a Cleveland mainstay. He's a Cleveland boy himself. His brother is Gregory Iron, for those who don't know, who has been part of 440 and now he's kind of taken a back seat recently with wrestling. But I think Gregory Iron pops in and out when he wants. And he's familiar with the people like the Cogers. He's familiar with people like, Nothing and Paige. And recently he became familiar with Christian Napier back at Animosity, where first off, crossed paths with him back at Whiteout in our No Ring show back in December of last year. And Napier cost him the RPW World Champion from then champion Hoodfoot. And back in Animosity that we had last month in Chicago at the world famous Berwyn Eagles, Zach Thomas made a statement of Napier and made an example out of Napier, even powerbombing off the Berwyn stage, right where like the commentator desk was and everything, by the DJ booth. He powerbombed, and it's a good 5 feet off the ground. It's pretty high, especially if you're going to powerbomb somebody off of the stage. So that's about math. I don't know, 7-foot drop. Sure. So Zach Thomas made a statement that if you want the tag team champions, Nothing and Ricky Shane Page, Faith in Nothing, as they have also been called on the scene. And I've been a fan of Faith in Nothing since their Cleveland All Pro days, all the way back in the early 2000s. So if you want to talk about throwback and history between those two, Zach Thomas and Dread King are saying you want the tag team champions, you got to come up yourself. The only problem is, if you know your history, your deathmatch history, Ricky Shane Page is banned from the H2O Center because of his past instances with Matt Tremont. So it begs the question: if 440 Blue want the tag team champions, how are you going to show up? Are you going to obey your banning from the H2O Center, or are you just going to say screw it and then you're going to show up? I don't know. We'll know on Sunday, but all I know is the web of relations between Zach Thomas and all of 440, both blue and yellow, is very interesting. And then Dread King Logan, who's built like a brick shithouse, and seems to get bigger every time I see him, is probably very hungry to get back into an RPW ring and defend those tag titles. So, and
I believe this is his return. This is his return to wrestling too, since Chaos. It is in December or no, I believe October almost. He's been off for quite a while, almost 4 or 5 months now. And so I guess it begs the question ring shape is different than physical shape. How's Logan going to show up to this as well? So I'm sure he'll be prepared mentally. I'm sure he'll be prepared physically, but there's nothing like stepping between those ropes to find out what's going on. And especially against somebody like Ricky Shane Page, if he shows up, there's a big match to be had.
Oh yeah.
Speaking once again on the international side, this is a match I'm very excited for. I don't have a lot of history with him. However, the matches that I have seen, I am very excited for this. Joel Bateman is back stateside, and he's taking on Danny Darko in a Razor Boards and Panes of Glass match.
We're gonna get two international stars and make them bleed, make them hurt just a little bit. Joel Bateman is no stranger to the RPW sphere. We saw him during our inaugural King of the Kill tournament, where he got to the quarterfinals. Obviously, also when he won the American Deathmatch World Title for a second time, his very first events of that second reign was done in an RPW ring against Neil Diamond Cutter. That was back at Inked. No, excuse me. It was Inked in Blood 2. So you can check that out on IWTV as well. But one of the mainstays of the Australian deathmatch scene is Joel Bateman. Comes with a lot of weight, places like Deathmatch Down Under and Dude Where's My Ring, incredible stuff. He's known as the smash hit. He's a fantastic wrestler, and very excited to have him back stateside. I'm very excited for him and his brand of violence as well. But Danny Darko had his RPW debut last year in Jersey at a little show we called Street Trash, and had a very great bouting with Tommy Vendetta, and it was a lot of fun. The man loves his light beers. But since last time we saw him at Street Trash, Danny Darko has he's bulked up a little bit, he's trimmed down a little bit, still like those light beers, but he's also the current Death Wolf champion for the company of Kumite Combat Wrestling. He's also a former Rise Underground Wrestling 2-time hardcore champion as well. And he's also a current tag team champion at DOA Wrestling in the UK. So since then, he's added a couple more accolades to his resume. And this is also another interesting pairing of these two gentlemen in an RPW. And that's what's the great thing about Ruthless Pro Wrestling. We have this stage, and we have this opportunity to bring these first time ever matchups to all of you. So both these gentlemen, very unique in their styles, comes with a lot of history, a lot of titles, and we're going to see it at MIASMA in Jersey.
I know quite a few people that Joel Bateman is appointment viewing for, especially if anything happens and he's available for King of the Kill 2, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We'll touch on that before we go off for the night. But I know there's some people around here that are like, Joel's in, we're in. I don't care, if it's a 6-hour drive, we're going. Speaking of people out of the UK, though, UK legend Clint Margera and Schlack are taking place in the Danny Havoc Viking tribute match.
So we all know that Danny Havoc is one of those big deathmatch wrestlers that made an impact, and unfortunately we lost him way too early in his life. Danny Havoc had such an effect on not only the deathmatch scene, but deathmatch wrestlers themselves. So while Schlack and Clint Margera both have never faced off each other, Schlack was the very last opponent for Danny Havoc. And Clint Margera has been a big, has stated, and is one of his deathmatch heroes was Danny Havoc, and unfortunately never got the chance to cross paths with him as well. So it's very interesting to see these two men face off. We call it the Viking tribute match because we all know that Danny Havoc was nicknamed as the Viking. But I heard a little rumblings. I'm not gonna say anything, but I heard a little rumblings. But this match is gonna be a lot of love and a lot of blood. And if Danny Havoc was still with us, I think he would appreciate all this. Obviously, Danny Havoc is a H2O Hall of Famer. You see the banner in any show that's happening in New Jersey, especially H2O shows. So it's going to be very interesting for these two facing off again. Another first time ever matchup that you have not seen anywhere else, and you're going to see it at a Ruthless Pro. Schlack, a lot of people know of Schlack and his accolades and everything, but recently in RPW, he was part of our King of the Kill tournament. He also took on Dr. Redacted back in October at Devil's Night 2. So we're very excited for that one.
Yeah, if you've never seen, which I don't know if you would be watching this podcast currently for this specific preview show and not know who Schlack is. We talked about Dread King being built like a brick shit house. Schlack just is a brick shit house, not built like one. The man literally is one. I took some people that had never known who he was before, regardless of the accolade, whether it was tattoos, the music, wrestling, didn't know who he was, saw him and went, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And then he bit the glass and they're like, you know what? That's enough for me. I'm done with that. You said everything. You said everything for it. I can't add to it.
Before even calling the Schlack Max, before even meeting him, Schlack scares the living shit out of me. I'm not even going to front. That's not a gimmick. That's not we're shooting here, as the kids say. No kids ever said that. Pew pew. But having said that, and having met the man and having called a handful of his matches, he is terrifying in the ring. He's a big old goober outside of it, but again, still scares the shit out of me because
hell of an internet troll too.
Hell of an internet troll. He's fantastic. Schlack is. You imagine the person named Schlack, and then you look at him and go, yeah, that's Schlack. That's Schlack, all right. That's and during WrestleMania week, he's going to have his own show about and the final performance of each turnbuckle. So that's going to be a wild time. I know recently, not to spoil it too much, but on when I'm not, commentary over wrestling, for either RPW or a couple of the other places I do it for, I help produce Chris Kohlenberg's Real Vile podcast, and recently he spoke about the new documentary that is going to be coming out for 8th the Turnbuckle. He got a media version of it and got to review it recently on Real Vile, so you'll hear a couple of words about that in an upcoming episode. So if you're into horror, go check that out as well when you're done listening to On a Forklift, obviously.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, and definitely go check it out. I will say this, we're a podcast where we're like, look, if you guys can get a fill of something, you can get more information on it, by all means, pipe up about it, say something about it. I'm not one of those people like, don't you talk about another podcast. No, I hate that. I love when people consume media. Like there's so many of us that get to take this journey, that get to take this ride. And if we all can be in some way to raise each other up just a little bit, just a smidge, God damn it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of people who are just big goobers outside of the ring, but very serious when it comes to the locker room and everything, we're going to touch on this tag team match because Schwartzy is one of the biggest goobers you've ever met, but absolutely one of the most professional wrestlers I have also met, and that goes for Randy as well. I have not met Louis or Dr. Redacted. However, I have seen a Dr. Redacted match, quite a few of them, and he's terrifying also. Which is funny because he's not physically a super terrifying human being, but he is an Eli Roth movie come to life, and that's
I have some dried blood from our match at Animosity, where in the middle of this match against Akira, decided to come up to the desk and then have a quick discussion, something about the Bald World Order or something like that. I don't know. It's beyond me. If he's taking a microphone, let him talk, let him do his thing. But I didn't want to get rid of it because I don't know. It's fun to have dried blood on a microphone. So
it is, and that I believe that clip's either on YouTube or wherever. It's somewhere you can watch it on IWTV though. More importantly, if you guys go and check that show out, it's from the Berwyn Eagles Club. Feel free to check it out. It's pretty funny. Also, it's got Akira in it, who's fantastic.
I'm a big Akira mark, so I hopefully it won't be the last time we saw Akira in an RPW ring. But back to this match in a red light district death match. So last year at Street Trash, our Jersey debut, Low Life Louie, another H2O Wrestling Center a Hall of Famer, and Schwartzy had a probably the most viral match I've seen. Like clips from that match went banana sandwich all over the internet, and people, and whenever you put up with like a wrestling match and like something goofy or something death matchy happens, and you get every single comment of like, oh, all that and a hot dog and a handshake and all that for 10 people and $50 and like and normies and not understanding how wrestling works. They saw some of the clips and some of the interesting paraphernalia, I guess I could say.
His Schwartzy stash box for anybody that's aware.
Well, beyond that, there was some penile shaped
marital aids.
Yeah. So we're gonna bring that energy back, but this time with the Schwets, as they call it. Schwartzy and Randy West, real life married couple, but now they're going to be trying to be married in the ring together. Well, while they're going to they made their RPW tag team debut last month at Animosity when they took on the Bruisers. A couple of people that they're very familiar with, and now they're going to take their hand on two very interesting and very dynamic, very bald people, saying that as another bald person as part of that bald world order of Dr. Redacted and Life Louis Ramos. And very excited to see all the shenanigans and all of the laughter. And it's going to be hard to try to call this match where I'm going to be laughing from the rafters of the H2O Center while we're calling this. So we're very excited for all the fun that this match is going to bring.
And speaking of this, I think, and maybe I don't ever want to step on anybody's toes and say anybody's better than anybody. I think, though, because we're talking about having something for everybody, this match is one of those matches that has something for everybody. Randy and Schwartzy are phenomenal wrestlers. Randy might be the best combo of wrestler and deathmatch wrestler on this card. She's just really damn good and has one of the coolest t-shirts. Like, out of like when it comes to women's wrestling, the RPW Vulgar Display of Power shirt with Randy on it ranks right up there with the Candice LeRae is tougher than you shirt from PWG. Like those two, I look at those on kind of the same level of like, that's a moment. That's the moment. Having seen Schwartzy, having talked to Schwartzy, so actually a Flophouse show is the entire reason that I met Chris Kohlenberg to get him on to do the King of the Kill podcast. I met him at Flophouse No Fucks Given last year. That
was a great show. That was a fun show.
I loved it. Dude, that's so much fun. Sitting in a back garden in the middle of a city, there's things there. I got good friend Dewey's there. The channel favorite, Gigi Jacobs, who I am not bashful to say is the absolute favorite of this channel. Ew, doggy. I think he's been on this. I think he's been on here 4 times now. I think he's been on more than anybody else. He was our first ever interview. And just, he stole a mozzarella stick from me one time. First time I'd been to an indie show in a long time. He stole a mozzarella stick from me. And then he won a battle royal. He won a battle royal by pulling the old card and taking the top rope off to knock the biggest guy out. So just, from that point, we actually, fun aside on Gigi though. When he came out and he's in the Pound Town USA shirt and he's got his overalls on with the red flame tights and stuff. We didn't know his name because it was a battle royal, and the guy announcing the ring, his mic was screwing up, so we didn't hear the name to begin with. So we were just calling him Ronnie Garvin Jr. through the entire thing. And we told him that, and he goes, well, hell, if I wasn't named Gigi Jacobs, I probably would be that. And so I was like, well, I'm glad you're not offended by that at all.
I like Gigi. We had him once at a show in RPW called Death Right, where he took on Schwartzy, and that was a lot of fun. I would love to see Gigi Jacobs back in RPW, but I did also help call during that No Fucks Given. I got the chance to do commentary. That was my first non RPW commentary show with the world famous Nick Manuel, and Nick was a great dude, and I'd love to do another show with him again. I don't want to spoil or anything, but it won't be the last time that I will be doing commentary at Flaphouse. So I'm very excited, hopefully in 24 to do that. So
we've seen the announcement where they're very close together. Both RPW and Flophouse. So I feel like we just barely didn't cross paths then, because I was at the old Miami that night.
So fun fact, I was going to tell you this off air, but I'll do it on air. So after the show was done, after we were done, a couple people came up to me and go, "Are you on a forklift, people?" And I go, "The hell's on a forklift? Like, what are you talking about? Like, where are you? The construction? Is that a construction company? Like, why would it be?" No, I was doing commentary for the show. Like, I was calling the show, and they were like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? You ever been to a wrestling show?" Like, at that point, I was winding
you thought
down.
Somebody was ribbing you?
Yeah, well, no, because I was starting to get like, I don't handle super drunk people very well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
so the booze was flowing, and like during like one of the matches, like while we're trying to like record commentary and everything, like this drunk lady kept on trying to talk to us while we were doing it. At one point I had to mute our recording and go, "Lady, please shut the fuck up. We're trying to record here. I need you to take a couple of steps back." I got really annoyed. It takes a lot for me to get really annoyed to that point where I'm cussing people out. And I never want to do that, especially professional, but
you are being professional though, because you're working a show, and if you're at the show, you're part of the show. So I look at it this way: if you're on commentary and they're interrupting the thing, how would a worker in the ring handle it? Now they might handle it a little bit differently because the focal point is on them. But I think if you've muted, said please leave me alone a few times, and they don't, it's like at some point you have to step it up to the next level, because the in-ring work and the mic work for the folks in the ring is losing its quality because you're unable to focus on it. So I think you're off scot-free on that. First off, I apologize about that. I love that somebody thought it was me. However, no, it wasn't. I was there. I was just sitting off to the side watch everything. I was there because Gigi was there and Big Al was there, and they're two of my favorite wrestlers.
I like Big Al a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing her in RPW. I think she would fit well in RPW.
I think she would too. Speaking of people that terrify me, she terrifies me. I've never met her, but I love watching her wrestle, and I think she's great. So speaking, we're talking about H2O Center. That's where this is taking. This is where this is taking place. So
correct.
We talked earlier a little bit about Neil Diamond Cutter and the 700 light tube match with Matt Tremont. We should probably talk about that because there's another match about a lot of light tubes that's going to happen here. It's the Typhoon of Light Tubes match with Killdozer and Judge Joe Dredd, who's picking up a lot of traction stateside recently.
So Judge Joe Dredd. We are one of the very few people on the east side. He's a West Coaster. He's one of this side of the Mason-Dixon line. Well, that's more like
Mississippi.
Yeah, sure, whatever. I was a radio person. I got to make things sound good. It doesn't necessarily need to know that I need to know all certain things. I just got to make them sound all right. All right. So give me a break here. Geography wasn't my strongest point. The point is, we're one of the few places that he has called his home on this side of the country. And I really, truly feel that Judge Joe Dredd is one of those wrestlers that definitely, if you don't understand or know what he is all about, you need to watch him. Not only does he put on such great work in his commentary game, or excuse me, in his promo game and his vocal work. I would say next to him and the Cogers are probably the best people on the independent scene when it comes to promos, because promos is a lost art. And especially when you do it on the independent scene with little to no television, you don't have those opportunities. So you got to cut it on social media. And in a world of car promos, he goes above and beyond and takes the time and energy to craft something interesting to make you care about who he is about. Not only that, very intimidating in the ring. This strong brawler. The man is, I want to say at least 6'4", 6'5", probably close to 300 pounds. He's not a small guy. And then the always weaselly but always effective legal representative Stephen Jury is always in tow with Judge Joe Dredd. They made their intentions known at Animosity last month at the Berwyn Eagles that he wants to set Matt Tremont free. We all know, and if you don't know, Matt Tremont has gone over this little transformation, and kind of a remnant of a man that he had a big feud with in 2023 over the IWTV World Title in current champion Cruel. Now Matt Tremont is now known as the Killdozer, but Dredd hates this. Dredd wants to set Tremont free. The man that did an explosion death match in the States with Onita, the man that has done multitude of death matches, deathmatch tournaments across the country. Tremont is one of those living legends in this wacky world of death matches that we call. And you talk about the history of Tremont, you talk about somebody that brings eyes to the table, and we're now in his home, literally in his home, knocking things down and everything, saying, I want you, and I want you to bring everything you got, and I'm going to put you down and set you free. I'm going to make sure you go back to the bulldozer that we all know and love. So this is out of spite, hate, love, respect, and all sorts of feelings, all mishmashed into one crazy typhoon of tubes death match.
And I back Joe on this one. I want to see. It's nothing against. I love masked wrestlers, but this is not Matt Tremont. This is not like Killdozer's cool. It's cool, but get away from the atrocity. Be back to what everybody wants, be back to what everybody loves. And it's not from a place of like, we don't like this thing currently, but we feel like you're being held back by it. That's from my perspective. That's where it seems like that. And I hope Joe succeeds, but I hope in the end, Tremont succeeds as well and becomes who he is. So we're coming down. We have 2 matches left on this card. We're going to touch base here, though, on the Kamikaze Championship with somebody who I've stated very openly terrifies me, but they're such a nice person when they're not holding a machete and wearing a Morton Joe style mask. Remington Roar is facing off against Vic Craig for the Kamikaze Championship.
So we established last year in Chicago that the Kamikaze title, which is a deathmatch title that will be traveling and can be defended in anywhere across the country. We've seen a couple of defenses here and there from inaugural champion Schwartzy and Remington Roar. Nothing against him, but he has the opportunity to defend that wherever he wants, whether he wants to choose. Having said that, Remington Roar is one of those wrestlers that I truly feel that the term underrated needs to stop being used. I think he's at the point now that he is not just an underrated wrestler. I think he is one of those wrestlers that will make you pay attention. I think he has the size, the skill, the talent, and everything. So Remington Roar made he won the title from Schwartzy at Devil's Night 2 at the Berwyn Eagles, made a defense against Randy West at Whiteout, our first ever no ring show for RPW in Dearborn, Michigan. And then he defended it last month in a very great match against Public Enemy number 1, Eric Dillinger at Animosity. So this is his next defense against a man that has been very established in the New Zealand area. He is a multiple-time singles, deathmatch, and tag team champion in New Zealand. He established Legacy Pro Wrestling in New Zealand. He is the first ever New Zealand deathmatch champion. He pops in and out of New Zealand to go to Australia and do some work over there. But this is his first U.S. excursion. It's very excited. I don't know much about Vic Cred. But the Deathmatch Reaper, that's a hell of a moniker. And I've seen a couple of clips of some of his matches and everything, and that name kind of fits for Mr. Craig. So I think these are two very similar styles, very similar builds, very unique, both of them. And we're going to have it for a title that could be, I don't know, could be going home to New Zealand with Vic Craig, or Remington Roar will put another notch in his belt in what I believe is gonna be a huge year for him in 24.
That is, that would make it a world title at that point if it gets.
It would make it a world title. You're correct.
So we have to recognize it. Them's the rules. Them's the rules that were set forth by the larger companies. Is if it gets defended in another country, then it's a world title. And you know what? New Zealand, last time I checked, that's another country. That's an Oceania, baby.
That's true.
Oceania, not Indiana. I want to clarify that. I'm pretty sure this hasn't been defended in Indiana or just Illinois. I don't know if they've had.
It has not been defended in Indiana yet.
Okay, because I knew Schwartzy was an Indianapolis resident for a while. The Indianapolis.
He did when Schwartz. So let me restate my fact. It has been defended in Indiana, but not by Remington Roar. Schwartzy made 2 defenses out of it, and you'll learn more actually about it. The good people at Jobber Radio, Bomber from Jobber Radio, recently broke down every deathmatch title match in 2023, and he covered RPW, and he covered Schwartzy's couple of defenses of the Kamikaze title that he did one at Flophouse, and he did one at the I believe it's defunct True Wrestling Underground. I heard rumblings that it might be coming back. I don't know. That's not my scene. All I know,
I'm not going to get into the speculation with the way that went. All I know is that the guys over at Spooky Dust had put out a statement, and I thought it was very classy of how they handled themselves with that, and that's the last that I know about that.
Those Spooky Dust cats who are a sponsor of this show are they do a very good job, and as I make my podcast rounds and AKA try to whore myself on different podcasts, I wouldn't mind being on them as well. So having said that, the title has traveled a little bit. I would love to see that title be defended on more areas outside of RPW. I think that's the reason the Kamikaze title has been created, because it's independent wrestling. Like, there's no like contracts. There's not like, there are people that we book regularly who are kind of our established crew, and then there's people that we have the opportunities to book and bring in. And poor Chris and his phone blowing up at all hours of the day of wrestlers and trying to get booked and everything. And we are at a point where we want to have a great balance between the people that we regularly book and people that, would be great in either the area or the people we're bringing in, or, however schedules work. A lot of these wrestlers are doing multiple bookings a month. A lot of wrestlers are trying to do this as a living, which is incredible if they can do it independently, especially. And we try to do our best to accommodate everybody.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. I mean, we've all seen what's been able to be done with the independent wrestling, the IWC championship or the IWC belt that people like Dark Horse have held.
IWTV World Belt. Yes.
IWTV World Belt. Yeah. That has been everywhere. And this has an opportunity to do the same thing on the deathmatch scale. And I think that's super cool. And a really, it's a gift. I think that's a gift to it lends, sorry, I apologize about the stuttering on this, but it lends credence to building stars. And people always say, the people make the belt. The belt really doesn't make the person. And I think that's a case, but this allows people to have more eyes on them when you're going up against somebody like Remington Roar. And if you're somebody like Vic Craig, who has an established history in the New Zealand and Australia area, you might not know about him in North America. I certainly don't. You yourself have stated that you really don't. But we're both intrigued to see how that happens. So as we're rounding into the final match that was announced today at 4 p.m. By the way. Oh, are we missing one? Which one am I missing?
The RPW Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, I must be missing that because I am not currently seeing that on there. Please run me through that one because because that's that one. I am missing one. I apologize about that. Feel free to talk about that while I find the
while you look for the graphic. Last month at Animosity, very interesting situation abrupted, and Hoodfoot Mo Atlas lost the RPW World Championship to Atticus Koger, the last nail. Atticus Koger, the leader of the 440 yellow division, I guess you could say,
right there,
and right there, as you see the graphic, for those who are watching in the video start, he is going to be defended against a man that we have not seen in RPW in quite some time, but he's not unfamiliar for this territory, a fellow Ohio native as well, because obviously 440, for those who don't know, and it's not 440, it's 440. It's an area code of the greater Cleveland area. I would know. I was originally from that area, even though I reside in Toledo. But 440 is an area of area code of Cleveland, and another Ohio standpoint. Excuse me, not Cleveland. Sorry, but another Ohio standout would be one Firestarter Jake Christ. We haven't seen Jake Christ in quite some time. Last time we saw him was RPW May of 2022 during the Body Count Battle, where he took on All Balls Kevin Giza. This is his second opportunity of challenging for the RPW World Heavyweight title. He did back in August of 2021 against then champion Justin Kyle. Since then, Jake Christ has done incredible work in places like TNA, Wrestling Revolver, across the independent scene as well. We all know that infamous promo of him lighting the IWA Mid-South titles on fire. So we know what Jake Christ is all about. But Atticus Koger is one of those, and we talk about in the same realm of like John Wayne Murdoch, that eyes are always paid attention when he's on a card. Atticus Koger is one of those people, probably one of the most popular deathmatch wrestlers, and the history and what he has done in the deathmatch scene and beyond shows for it. But for people who watched Animosity, know Atticus Koger can wrestle. He can wrestle really well without a table in sight, without a chair in sight, without barbed wire in sight, without a glass pane in sight. He wrestles. He can wrestle very well, and he out wrestled Hoodfoot, even though there was some interesting shenanigans involved during that match, and you can check that out on IWTV of why and how I'm saying that. I don't want to spoil it because you should watch it. Watch
the show. Do it. Just go to IWTV after this. After this, go watch it.
After this, of course. But Atticus Koger now is going to make his first defense of the champion in a choice that he wants in Jake Christ. So this is going to be two Ohio boys fighting it out in New Jersey. And I'm going to laugh my ass off when the crowd eventually just goes, Ohio sucks, because, both these wrestlers are from Ohio. So,
well, and I mean, I'm from Michigan, so like I'm a little biased on this one, but
hey, you can't say Ohio sucks. We'll say Ohio sucks. We're from here.
That's our word.
You don't get to say it. It's our word. You don't get to say it.
Listen, I live about midway between the Toledo Zoo and the Detroit Zoo, and I have a year membership to the Toledo Zoo. So it's
man.
It's okay. It's all
Everybody
right.
says Ohio sucks, and Indiana is right there. I mean, come on now.
Kentucky's right below you.
Florida exists. Come on now.
Florida's dangling.
Texas is the thing. Florida's there like a bad weed, and Texas.
I know so many good wrestlers out of Texas, and I feel so bad.
I do too, actually. I do too. Yeah.
Matthew Palmer, Nate Slater, the Camachos, all of the Nate Bradley. I love all of you. I don't know how you live in Texas. I would live in Ohio before I live in Texas. So that leaves us with one, even the 419, your Toledo area code, or 567, I believe is the other one, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. We just got a new one, 947 or something. For the longest time, it was 734-248-810, and then in the 313. They gave us another one. We have a 947.
I remember when the area codes were the big thing, and because I at the time I was in my hometown of Akron, Ohio, and Akron, Ohio went from 440 to 330 for the area code, because I remember that was a big deal when they were like establishing different, when you had to call people with the area code, because at one point in time you didn't need to use the area code unless you had to dial out or long distance, and you had to use your long distance minutes and all that jazz. All you old kids right now, or all you Gen Zers, are looking at me like I'm weird, but we don't
message.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time where kids, where phones was on cords. There was it's called a rotary.
I dialed the wrong number. You stopped at the wrong one. Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah.
I grew up in the age of like, here's your gamer tag and put your area code at the end of it, which I still have. I never grew out of that. I had a message the other day from my MSN or Hotmail account, and it was like, hey, congratulations on 16 years on Xbox Live. And I was like, ew. So
Hotmail? Ew.
Well, you had to. You either had to have an MSN or a Hotmail account to create an Xbox.
I know.
Live
one of my first emails was on AOL, and then I did a Hotmail account, and then I eventually went to Google.
So. Oh yeah, I had Yahoo and MSN and just awful stuff. GeoCities, I believe, was good old GeoCities. Was a harbor. Angel Fire. There's another throwback for you. Woo! Okay.
Ancient internet terms on a forklift. Let's go.
Yeah, there we go. We're gonna get. So we've always told people this. We're a wrestling podcast in name only, because generally it devolves into us talking about food or video games, because that's our other two vices. But speaking of somebody who we spoke about in this last match, the former RPW heavyweight champion is involved in the RPW Rust Belt Championship. And this is a four-way dance between another Koger and Otis Koger, Lou Nixon, and a Detroit native, Thomas Oliver Vendetta, who has just been rising up on the scene. I believe he won the King of the Kill tournament last year as well. So he's made quite the statement in RPW.
So we'll give credit where credit is due. Tommy Vendetta had a hell of a 2023. He faced a who's who of international talent, and won most of his matches. He lost against Sakuda back in January. At this time, it's war. He did not win, but he did not lose in that four-way involving Abdullah Kobayashi at Take Us Need His Pain in Chicago when we debuted at the Berwyn Eagles. But he's won some incredible matches against people like Danny Darko. When he won the King of the Kill. He beat 7 other men to become the inaugural King of the Kill. He turned around and ended a near 600-day Rust Belt deathmatch title reign of Randy West. But now he's taken all of with all those accomplishments, of all that hard work he has done. The fans kind of just turned on him. Like some people in certain groups hate the idea that he wears a t-shirt.
I love it. T-shirt Tommy, let's go.
They hate the attitude. They don't like how he is. They think that he's not a deathmatch wrestler and everything. So he's just kind of flipped everybody off and says, screw you. I don't need your support. I don't want your support. I'm going to win it my way. But match in and match out, he is just kind of for being the deathmatch champion is doing a little less than death matches, running away from weapons, destroying weapons before even using them. Kind of the whole idea of being a deathmatch champion. Our promoter Chris Kohlenberg says that's it. You can't run away. You can't sneak your way out of winning another freaking match. Where you're going to put 3 other men who are very dangerous, who are very hungry, who have been proving in their own worlds to take to come after you. We got Otis Koger, who, in my opinion, it is. You talk about underrated, and I don't want to say he's underrated, but I will say that term just because I can't think of another term. But I think a man that doesn't get
under the radar.
I don't think he gets enough credit, and Otis Koger is one of those wrestlers that does not get enough credit where credit is due. He does incredible work, not only with his brother in Atticus, and also now in 440 Yellow, but what he's done by himself as well. He's put on some incredible matches just recently in a no rope barbed wire match against Hardway Heater. He got his arm sliced open against Heater at Whiteout and needed close to 100 stitches. And then 2 weeks later, faced off in King of the Death match for Circle 6. He is an insane person, but he's an incredible wrestler. And that I feel like he does not get enough credit where credit's due. You talk about another incredible wrestler. You talk about UK's Lou Nixon, who is making his RPW debut with us. He is an MMA fighter that is now turned pro wrestler. Just started in the pro wrestling circuit in 2017. He's a regular in places like Rise Wrestling in the UK, where he's the current European Deathmatch champion, and also Kumite Combat Wrestling, where he's currently the openweight champion right now. So he's coming in to the US, into RPW with already 2 straps. I think a third one might be very interesting if he wins the Rust Belt as well.
It's possible.
And then Hoodfoot coming off of a tough loss of the RPW world title. But you all forget that man has done some incredible things in death matches, a former American deathmatch world champion, but also the match that really got a lot of his eyes open on death matches was in RPW against Madman Pondo at Inked in Blood. That was the match that turned heads, where, when he was getting cut open by that little like shank that Pondo had, and blood splurting out like a fountain out of his head, like incredible. I mean, he's right on my shirt, as you can see right now, available at Deathmatch Worldwide. And he's one of those wrestlers that has done incredible matches, and now he's going back to where he feels like he belongs. It's the deathmatch world, and he's going to be taking on 3 tough sons of bitches. So any one of these men could leave Jersey champion, and you're a champion going into a 4-way. You have the least amount of chance. You have everything to lose and barely anything to gain.
Yeah,
you have
it's not a position you want to be in. And I love Hoodfoot. I've got to watch him wrestle regular matches. Actually, speaking of Big Al earlier, he wrestled Big Al at Flophouse. I believe that was the match.
He was challenging. So Hoodfoot was originally going to be booked for Hoodfoot and Casanova Valentine. The Death Wish Foundation was going to be taking on the RPW and Flophouse Tag Team Champions in Midwest Scum. Yes. But Casanova unfortunately could not make it, so Big Al was his replacement.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. That is what it was. I remember he wrestled with Big Al, not against Big Al. That valiant effort, by the way, on both parts. Stepping into a situation that you're unknown of, or that you're not really known for on Big Al's part, and taking on somebody in well-oiled machine such as Midwest Scum, and then Hoodfoot just being Hoodfoot. Both also, speaking of internet trolls, he's fantastic. One of the funniest human beings I've ever met. Just generally, like, he's genuine and he's just naturally hilarious.
Man put out a divorced dads playlist on Spotify.
Oh yeah.
And if you have not, and if you're a fan of, or you have a soft spot in that style of music, that like some people, divorced dads, your butt rock, your themes that you would hear on like maybe a classic rock station,
the DDP, the divorced dads playlist.
Yeah, like some drunk uncle's garage on a Saturday. Yeah, it's incredible, and I highly recommend you listen to it on Spotify if you subscribe.
Every time, to take away from this, every time I think about divorced dad playlist, I only think about that scene from Hot Tub Time Machine where he's in the garage singing Motley Crue, and before he passes out from asphyxiation, like that's what I think. I'm like, that dude's drunk in a car just singing Motley Crue or Triumph or something. That's a Warrant. Yeah, Striper. Why not?
Wasp.
Jackal. Let's go there. There's a band that played in Toledo a ton at Toledo Harley Davidson. Jackal played there all the time.
I will say one of the things I will never miss on radio is working Ohio Bike Week.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I keep getting drugged out.
It is a terrible time for me. It was a terrible time for me every time I would have to do it because I worked in an alt rock station that barely reached out to that area in Sandusky. And then everybody wants to listen to classic rock. Nobody wants to hear somebody play Mumford & Sons. So like I'm trying to play like my music and trying to do a live show there. And then people will come up to me in between breaks and go, "Can you turn that down?" Like it was already loud, but they didn't want to hear our type of music. And then I worked also in the promotions department, so I had to like help set up things during the week of Ohio Bike Week and all the things going on there. And it was just such a terrible time. So when I left radio, I was like, thank God I never have to do that.
Oh, I was a promotions intern for Riff, so I get it. I know Arts Beats and Eats was the hell week for us. It was just a week straight. And the worst part about Riff is that you had 3 separate radio stations. So you had Riff and CSX and you'd always look at the sheet and you're like, okay, I'm working for Riff or CSX. The other station that we had was, I guess technically it was adult contemporary, but it was Magic 105.1. And it was before they became The Beat, which is a hip hop station. And from what I've heard from people, is really fun to work for. When it was Magic, we had events that were nice to go to because they'd be at like hospitals, animal like shelter openings and stuff. The events themselves were nice because it was always like, your event is from 9 to 1. And you're like, sweet, this is a great day. It was never super early. It was never super late like a rock concert would be, but it was always like, and here's Kelly Clarkson for the 15th time. And I'm like, just put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. Like I can't take it anymore. It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. No, it's going to kill me. It's going to take me out because I can't stand it anymore.
My favorite thing to do with my friends, there's certain songs they'll listen to and they're like, oh man, this is classic. And I'm like, I want to, if I have to hear anything from Nirvana ever again, I will not. Like they ask me all the time, it's like, what songs do you hate, or what did radio make you hate? And I could go on and on about that because there are many songs. Anything by
Hinder. Oh, yep. I just never want to hear that again. If I hear anything
from Saving Abel, it'll be the last time. Please.
Oh my God. What was it? Was it Saving Abel that was the one? Oh, I have a Saving Abel story for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Saving Abel, so they were supposed to come around and they were doing a meet and greet, and I was plucked that week. Well, this is when swine flu was going around. So I was on that, and I was supposed to be the liaison to the band because they were like, oh, hey, give this 19-year-old kid with absolutely no experience whatsoever. He's going to be that. So I was the liaison between the people that won the meet and greet and Saving Abel themselves. Well, then the singer came down with swine flu. We were supposed to go like go-kart racing and all kinds of stuff. And we didn't do any of that. And so the people that won the meet and greet, they're calling me. They're going, hey, what's going on? And I was like, there's no meet and greet. They're like, what do you mean? We're at the radio station. I was like, yeah, it was canceled. Like the concert's canceled, like all that stuff. And they're like, oh, nobody called us. And I'm like, are you serious? The radio station my boss, Ben, he goes, yeah, hey man, that was your responsibility to call them. And I said, really? When were you going to tell me that? I was like, when was that going to happen? Because I had no freaking idea. And so that was kind of one of the last things that I did there. But I got to do some cool stuff. I got to meet all of Creed and kind of pissed off Scott Stapp. So that was really fun. They were doing an acoustic set. I will say this, the drummer, I don't remember his name, one of the coolest dudes in the world. It's an acoustic set. He just has bongos and he's not even hitting them. He goes, the track's playing. He goes, I don't have to hit them.
Oh, that's
so
great.
They actually had a drum backing track or whatever. So he's just sitting there and you just watch him and he's just doing this, but they're never actually hitting. So I stood at the side of the stage and talked to him for the entire show. I loved it. I did really fun things in radio, but I found out really quickly that which obviously you were in it for a really long time, but I found out really quickly, hey, I got lied to.
They do that. They do that a lot. And I have two quick stories. One of the coolest moments and one of we're past MIASMA right now.
We're past
MIASMA at this point.
So if you can go back, watch everything. We'll talk about it again. I'll just let everybody know the details at the end of this. Peapod, we're in this for you because I also have something I want to bring up and talk to you about. I always go and I dig deep on people's social media and I find pictures and I have to ask about it.
Okay.
So, but let's hear the radio stories before I get to that.
I'll do it quickly. I got to meet A Day to Remember, which was one of the very first things I did. And that was super cool. And being in radio was escorting A Day to Remember from our venue headliners to the radio station so they can do 2 acoustic performances live on air and then back there. So I had them in my own personal vehicle. I got to pick them up. It was a tour manager, Jerry McKinnon, the singer, and the 2 guitarists in the back seat. And I was driving a Toyota 4Runner at the time. And they were super nice, super chill, everything. At one point, going back to the venue from the music station, we had our radio station in the background just playing music so it wasn't awkward in the car. And Third Eye Blind's Jumper starts playing and everybody in the car starts singing along with it. And I wished I had to record it. And I thought that was the coolest moment. And then one of the awkward moments now that come to find out now, because it's very funny. I had the band Trapped live in studio and ironic. And this is before we all found out that the lead singer of Trapped is a raging right-wing conspiracy theorist.
Piece of shit.
You
can say it on here. That's okay. Yes. Regardless of that other stuff, the way that he treats people is just awful.
Giant piece of shit. But at the time, he was probably the most sober of the 4 members of Trapped in our live studio. First off, they were driving a giant ass bus, and it blocked most of our small ass driveway to the radio station. And not only that, but the other members of the band were either drunk or high or still tired, and they were stumbling into other studios while live on air as well. I got a talking to from one of the top stations in our cluster because they did it. I was I was one person trying to herd cats, and ironically the lead singer was the nicest and the most professional out of all of them, but then come to find out he's a big piece of shit. So I thought that was incredibly funny.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes that's how it shakes out. I mean, I did get to meet some cool people. The guys from Pop Evil, by the way, shout out to them. I don't know if there's any problems with them, but they were super nice the 5 times.
Oh, I bet they're nice. I've heard good stories about them.
Yeah, they were super cool. They helped me park cars because they were opening for Creed on that, in Clarkston at that reunion tour thing. They were opening so I think it was them, and then Alter Bridge was opening, so it was kind of weird because half the band, the band is
half
all
the band's
playing.
in Alter Bridge, yeah.
Tremont was cool too, Mark Tremonti was cool too, but not as cool as the drummer. I don't remember his name, but whatever. Anyway, the guys from Pop Evil, they're like, hey, do you need help? And I'm like, doing what? And they're parking cars. And I was like, why? And they're like, we're bored. We don't have anything to do. We just had to make an appearance here. But we're riding with them back to the venue. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're flagging cars into the parking lot in this abandoned parking lot off of 8 Mile. It was wild. Loved it. But enough about our radio stories for right now, because I have some I have to tell you off air. I can't say on air because I have friends that still work there and I don't want to say anything about it. I do have a question for you though. So like I said, I deep dive on people's social media. And I found a picture on your Facebook and I have to ask you what's going on at this time, because I have a similar picture that I'm going to go find and pull.
I had a funny feeling if that was going to be the photo.
Sometimes that's what happens.
Okay, so I like an adult beverage here and there. And one of the but I never get really drunk. I never get really inebriated. I have an irrational fear of like not being in control of myself. One year, I got out of a really bad relationship, and I was staying at my friend's place. At the home, they're like, you can stay with us, you can finish up, I was going to Specs Howard actually at this time. And he's like, you can fish up there. You can, I had a little bit of a debt that I had to pay back. And they're like, you can stay with us. You don't got to pay rent. Just give us some money for food. That's it. And they at this year, my friends at the time would celebrate. They would do a big house party during Thanksgiving weekend. They call it Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And that year I was like, I'm staying at the house that, this is happening at. At the time I was just dating my now wife at that time as well. And I said, screw it. I'm going to get drunk. And I was incredibly drunk. And one of the party goers there had balloons, was making balloon hats and wands and wings and everything in that photo. So a very inebriated Peapod was going around as a balloon fairy of sorts, and that's that photo.
Wands and wings, very shiny things. Pretty bod, buff bod, Peapod, hot rod. It's from Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh my god!
So it's all they're all that's all in the title song. The wands and the wings and the Peapod. Yeah. It's all in the song. Yeah. Oh my god! I'm sorry. Song. I was having a moment where I don't drink anymore. Whatever. It's not like a personal thing. I just got tired of waking up feeling like dog shit.
No, absolutely.
Not like I did something
and I respect
insane.
And support that.
Yeah, not like I did something. And I don't knock people that do drink. Like if you want to go out and have fun, cool. As long as it's not ruining your life, do your thing.
Exactly.
But when I did, I also had a thing for balloon animals too. So I was like, I got to bring this up. We're not going to talk about the Avenged Sevenfold tattoos. Speaking of butt rock, I got 3 of them, man. 3 of them. We're good. But I get it. The balloon animals thing. Sometimes you crack a couple of brewskis, balloon animals happen. It's worth it.
Exactly.
I will say, however, to bring this back up, very well done.
Thank you. I mean, somebody else made them, and I just put it on there. And also, apparently, I was saying the quote from Toy Story. Do you see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit. And to this day, a lot of my friends who understood that will do that. And now, after I told that story, I'm pretty sure my group chat in RPW will start calling me that. So
nice.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to have been a portion of that. So Peapod. If there is anything else, we're kind of running up. We usually we stick to about an hour, but an hour and a half tends to happen, especially for the first show. You're doing a rundown of everything. So MIASMA's coming up. It's WrestleMania weekend. Everybody kind of knows it as WrestleMania weekend. If you're in the deathmatch community, it's MIASMA weekend, though.
It is. And
I do want to ask the name. How did that's the last question I have. Is this a Kohlenberg? A creation?
That is a Kohlenberg production. I wish I had one of my names. To this day, me and Chris have been joking, and we still want this to happen. That we want a show called Streets Ahead, which is a community reference, and I would love to have Streets Ahead as a show, because you have to ask your streets behind. So for those who are like community, you'll understand the Streets Ahead reference. But no, Chris comes up with a lot of the titles and everything, and MIASMA. It is pronounced MIASMA. It's also called MIASMA. In the UK, they pronounce that word as MIASMA, but it is titled, and I had to look it up, and multiple English dictionaries say the term is MIASMA. So it is said like that, but that is a Kohlenberg production right there.
I was thinking of because of the spooky dust that comes out of the light bulbs that your asthma would act up. So miasma.
Yeah.
That's the theory that I had behind it. But like we said, we've talked about that. What else is coming up for Peapod? I'm going to give you the big screen because we like at the end of every show let you plug everything that you have going on and just talk about whatever you have happening.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Ruthless Pro Wrestling presents MIASMA happening Sunday, April 7th at Williamstown, New Jersey at the H2O Wrestling Center. Doors open at 3. We'll be live in Bell on IWTV, and Bell will start at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is powered to you by Spooky Dust Podcast, Iberian Championship Belts, Deathmatch Worldwide, and Marks R Us, with a special inclusion of the good people at Kings Road LLC, who are sponsoring the match between John Wayne Murdoch and Ito as well. Having said that, also coming up for Ruthless Pro Wrestling, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about King of the Kill 2 happening on August 24th. Our friends at Flophouse will be doing a show beforehand on Friday night, August 23rd, called Bad Motherfucker. I will also be a part of that show as well. During that time, during that King of the Kill weekend, you're going to be able to see late night, all night horror film extravaganza sponsored by Severin Films. There'll be a smoke out. There'll be live bands. There'll be vendors. There'll be camping opportunities up in Maybe, Michigan, which is just right outside of Ida, Michigan. There'll be so much more. Tickets are available right now, ruthlesspro.com for both these shows and so much more. And King of the Kill 2 is sponsored by Jabba Radio, Spooky Dust Podcast, Severin Films, Iberian Championship Belts, Deathmatch Worldwide, and Mr. Lidl's Productions. Also, having said that, if you want to follow me and my journey into this wacky world of wrestling, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Peapod on the media. Go check that out as well. I am one of the voices of Ruthless Pro Wrestling. I'm honored to be there. I am going to be popping up in some other places, most notably also John Bullard, who's been on the show recently, and his Chaotic Combat Wrestling, which very soon will be announcing their very first show for the year. So go check that out. I'm jumping around a couple other places as well. I have recently just been doing commentary also with John for a West Coast promotion out of Salt Lake City called SLC Wars, punk rock and pro wrestling together. I love it already. And support independent wrestling, support your good people doing rad things, and don't be a dick.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better. I could have unmuted myself when I said it the first time, but I could not have said it better. You know what? We're getting used to it. Usually I don't work this. Usually it's the other guy, Clint. He usually works all that stuff. But whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm doing these on my own now, and he can deal with it. He doesn't have to edit anything. We're all good, and it works out great. Peapod, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'd love to have you on again. We could talk a little bit farther in depth, especially after MIASMA happens. I would love to hear about your experiences from that stuff. You're welcome back anytime. Also, you're local, so there's a little bit of crossover there of like knowing some things. I used to hang out in Toledo a bunch when I was a kid, so I kind of, I wouldn't say a kid, but when I was a teenager, I used to do some dumb stuff down there because whatever. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that on air at the current moment in time. However, I would like to extend a huge thank you. Once again, please go watch MIASMA this weekend, or not this weekend, but the next weekend, April 7th. It's Sunday afternoon, so you can watch that. And then if you like mainstream wrestling, you can go watch the big show after that. But I would like to say a heartfelt thank you once again to you, Chris, Peapod. Thank you for being on the show. I'm the Hoochie Daddy, Ethan James. You can find me at Hoochie Daddy EJ on Instagram. This is On a Forklift. You can find us on Twitter at On a Forklift Pod. You can find us here every Thursday night at 8 p.m.-ish, kind of, whenever we go live. It's usually our live night. Whenever it happens, it happens. Specifically here on YouTube. We used to be on Twitch. We're no longer on Twitch. But you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, whatever kind of things that are going on with that stuff. I don't really know. I don't do a lot of that stuff. But more importantly, we have a little sign off that we do here because we are titled On a Forklift, and we're named after the single greatest wrestling match in all of professional wrestling history, the Judy Bagwell on a Forklift match. Our sign off is always 4 simple words. It's, we love you, Judy.